Hey everyone. So if you've ever found yourself pulling your hair out trying to keep security and user settings consistent across, I don't know, thousands of virtual desktops, then you are in the right place. We're going to dive deep into Omnissa Horizon global policies and really figure out how to create that master blueprint for your entire digital world.
Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. Forget about being an IT admin for a second. Instead, picture yourself as a city planner. You're in charge of this massive, sprawling digital metropolis, and your users are the citizens. Now, how in the world do you make sure everyone follows the same basic rules for safety, for access, for just about everything? That's the real challenge, right?
And the answer to that challenge? It's global policies. I want you to think of these as the master blueprint for your entire digital city. These aren't just some random settings you toggle on and off. No, these are the foundational laws that govern everything, making sure there's order and consistency from one end of your environment to the other.
So we've got this idea of a master blueprint. Awesome. But how does it actually work? How does it govern our digital city? In this first part, we're going to break down the mechanics. We'll look at the scope of these rules, and maybe most importantly, what happens when different rules start to overlap.
First things first, let's talk about scope. And really, the name global kind of says it all. These policies are designed to be citywide. That means they apply to every single connection server, which are like the main gateways into your city, and to every user and desktop pool in your entire Horizon world. It's the baseline, the starting point for absolutely everyone.
Right, so that probably makes you wonder, okay, that's great, but what happens if I need a different, more specific rule for a certain group? Do the global rules just steamroll everything? Well, that's where this idea of precedence, or a hierarchy, comes into play. Let's check out how that works.
Think of it like building a house. At the very bottom, you've got your foundation. It has to be solid, right? That's your global policies. These are the default settings, the universal laws that apply to everyone and everything, unless the more specific rule tells them otherwise.
Now, on top of that foundation, you start building out different neighborhoods in your city. These are your pool-level policies. So a rule you set here, let's say for your neighborhood of graphic designers who need a lot of power, can override that global setting, but only for that specific group.
And finally, you can get super specific, right down to the individual household rules, which are your user-level policies. This is the most granular layer you can get. So here's the key takeaway, the one thing to remember. The most specific rule always wins. A user policy will always beat a pool policy, which in turn beats the global default. It's a structure that gives you amazing flexibility while keeping that strong, consistent base.
Okay, cool. We get the hierarchy now. We understand how the rules are applied. But what kind of rules can we actually write into this master blueprint? Let's dig into the different zoning laws you can set up to control both the security and the functionality of your digital city.
It really boils down to three main zones. You've got policies for security, policies for day-to-day functionality, and policies for something called Cloud Pod Architecture, or CPA. And don't worry, we'll quickly touch on what each of those means.
Let's start with the security zone. This is all about guarding your city's borders. These policies control things like what communication protocols are allowed in and what kind of encryption standards, or cipher suites, have to be used. It's basically like setting the rules for the locks on every door and the guards at every gate. It's your absolute first line of defense. Then you've got the functionality zone. This is what life is like inside the city for your citizens. It directly affects their day-to-day work. Can they plug in a USB drive? How smooth is their video streaming? This is where you're constantly balancing a great user experience with managing your resources and security.
And finally, that CPA zone. You know, if your digital empire is made up of multiple connected cities, like allied city-states, these policies manage the travel and trade between them. It decides if a user's search for a desktop stays local in their home city, or if it expands to search for resources across the entire federation. This is absolutely key for big, spread-out organizations.
All right, enough theory. Let's get practical. How do these blueprint rules actually affect a user's day-to-day life? In this section, we're going to see how the choices you make as that city planner have a real, tangible impact on your citizens' productivity and security.
Now, this is where things get really interesting, because it's all about trade-offs. Look at multimedia redirection. By default, it's denied. The upside, your servers aren't getting crushed trying to render video. The downside, your users get a choppy, frustrating video experience. Or take USB access. Sure, allowing it is super convenient for users, but every open port is a potential security hole. This is the balancing act you're performing every single day.
Besides those, there are a couple of other really important rules I want to highlight because they have a huge impact on both the user experience and your security posture. Let's look at global entitlement scope and client restrictions.
So, global entitlement scope. This is a big one. It basically asks the question, when a user logs in, do we give them the closest desktop for the best possible performance, or do we search the entire network across all our connected pods to find any available desktop? It's a critical dial you can turn for managing your resources.
And then there's client restrictions. Man, this is powerful. Think of this as a security checkpoint at the city gates that checks not just your user's ID, but also the vehicle they're driving. You can use this to say, hey, only company-owned laptops can get into our most secure district. It adds this crucial layer of device-level security.
All right, let's wrap this all up. We've talked about what the blueprint is, how the rules work, and what you can control. But why is getting this blueprint right so incredibly important? Let's talk about the ultimate goal for you, the city planner. At the end of the day, it's all about this. A well-designed blueprint builds a digital city that is secured by default, provides a totally consistent experience for users no matter where they log in from, and just works seamlessly. It's about building a place where your citizens can be both productive and safe.
You know, this quote from the source material just hits the nail on the head. It's not just about flipping some switches. It's about maintaining a consistent security posture and user experience, especially when you're dealing with a huge environment. That's the whole point.
So I'll leave you with this thought. You're the city planner. You've got the power of the master blueprint in your hands. Thinking about your own digital city, what's the very first, most important foundational rule you're going to write?